Good afternoon and happy spring. Welcome to the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Edwards, managing broker for the Seattle Real Estate team, and I'm here with Tucker Maxwell of Guild Mortgage. Welcome to the podcast, Tucker.
Thank you so much, Dan. How's it going?
It's going well. It's been a little while, and I am excited to welcome you back. We've got a great topic today that I want to discuss with you. Is there is a lot of uncertainty out in the market? Would you agree?
Absolutely. A lot of volatility, which leads to uncertainty.
Yeah, economic instability. There's questions. We've got two wars going on. We've got tariffs going on. A lot of chaos, a lot of change. And, I don't know if you've heard this statistic, but right now, consumer confidence for home ownership is at 17%. And that is the actual lowest. The last time it was this low, 1981.
Oh, my word.
1981. And what's amazing about 1981, you and I were out running around out back, probably with a stick, whacking a tree or something like that. And I grew up in the country. That's just what we did. And
We did the same thing.
we play a game called whack stick. Now we just walk around with metal sticks in a field with a tiny little ball. It's
That's
weird.
right.
How we
Yeah, we've evolved a long way.
We've evolved big time. Well, so yeah, it was 81, and interest rates then were 17%, 14%, 12%. We had an oil embargo going on. So there was a lot of economic impact that caused that uncertainty. So we're finding ourselves in the same place. And let me ask you this question though, Tucker, is if I were to wave a magic wand and give you the ability to buy a home in 1981, would you?
At a price that I could get in 1981, absolutely.
If I were to wave a magic wand and say, Tucker, you can buy a home in 2009, it's at the height of the crash, yet you can afford it, would you go back and do it now?
Yep.
Yeah,
I would.
That's always the answer, because the long play is what we're talking about when it comes to home ownership, right?
Absolutely. There's never been a 10-year period where homes have appreciated. So even if I bought it in 2009, by 2019, that home fully appreciated and was worth more.
What he meant to say is there's never been a time where they depreciated over a 10-year time.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Depreciate. Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So I want to unpack the three top fears. Okay. We're all using AI. So I was like, all right, AI, tell me, what are the three top fears for home buyers? And this question was spurred to me from a colleague of mine at the Woodinville Chamber, because I was asking her, well, what are you afraid of buying a home? And so we've got the answers per our AI, but I'm going to unpack these one at a time. The number one fear, can you guess what that is, Tucker?
Is it the right time to buy?
No, the number one fear is affordability and the financial overwhelm of buying a house. That's the number one fear by far. It tops everybody's list. So let's unpack that. Affordability. Do you remember when you bought your first home?
Yeah, I do.
What did that feel like?
Super exciting. Just the pride of having something of my own, being able to, at the time I thought, I was going to do all these remodels and I was going to, be customizing a home. But there's also some fears, could I afford the payment? What happens if I lose my job? Those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah. Those are super common. And it's normal to have those kinds of fears, especially when you go from an obligation of rent, which seems really temporary, to ownership, which is permanent, right? It's mortgage. You have a mortgage tied to a physical asset. What would you say is the difference between paying rent and paying a mortgage?
Paying a mortgage is forced savings. A lot of people don't recognize the routine payments. Sorry, it glitched here on my end. Through your routine payments, you're going to get 1% appreciation every year just by paying down your mortgage. So there's a forced savings aspect. Guarantee on the price you're paying. Every year you're going to get some kind of cost adjustment, or it's going to increase, right? You're going to get some type of new lease agreement. Whereas on a mortgage, typically you're locking into a fixed interest rate, which means that's going to be the highest payment you're ever going to have.
Yeah, and I would encourage anybody that's out there that's planning on buying while the portability of rent is great and you feel a little more secure, but oftentimes people don't save the extra money that would normally go into a mortgage, they spend it.
Yep.
So by actually linking yourself to a physical asset and a small percentage at the beginning of a mortgage, a small percentage of that goes to principal, which would be that forced savings account. So
Yep.
while it certainly won't, I mean, we can't alleviate the financial overwhelm because it's a big change, right? You
Mhm.
can prepare yourself. And what I tell my first time home buyers is if you have your eyes on a mortgage amount and you're paying less than that mortgage amount, um, then go ahead and pay more of that mortgage amount, but just take that and put it in like a CD or like a secured savings account that will earn a little bit higher interest than a regular one and one that's a little difficult to pull it out. So you're kind of forcing your savings. Okay, so that's the number one fear. So essentially, the reality is the lender is going to look at statistics and determine your affordability. Now, what's something somebody can do? What's a tip that somebody can do to increase their affordability? Maybe a financial habit or paying off a certain debt. What can people do?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I like to recommend to folks is you look at your spending and determine what's a necessity versus discretionary spending. We all have our habits, our vices, things like that. And so this is the Seattle Real Estate Podcast. So let's use coffee for example. Like think of just how many people are stopping by a coffee stand every day. Let's call it $4.50 a day for coffee, which is I think probably a discounted coffee today. It's probably closer to $7, but
Ridiculous.
$4.50 times 5 days a week, you're talking $90 a month right there. And just coffee alone is probably mindless spending. It's happening every day. If you could then increase your monthly budget by $90, depending on interest rates, that could, we're talking probably a $20,000 increase in home price just simply by telling your lender I can afford $90 more a month.
Yeah, and just basically say I'm going to go ahead and drink the coffee at work.
Exactly. Exactly. Might be whiskey. I'm gonna lean on my employer for coffee, or I'm gonna brew it at home. Like you can go to
Yeah,
Costco, buy a large bag of coffee, brew it yourself. Sure, it's not as good or tasty as that one that you're getting on the way into the office, but it's just
I
a
think it's
quick
better.
fix. It could be right. Hone in your brewing skills. Do a pour over. There's a lot of ways to make it good, but we all have those things. It could be energy drinks at a gas station. It could be brewery and getting a beer a couple of days a week on
Yeah.
happy hour. Spending nails for folks that like to get their nails done. We all have these little expenditures that we do routinely and mindlessly. It adds up throughout a month that we could easily stop. Streaming services, another way that we could say, hey, we're going to forego Netflix and Paramount Plus for a few months. And we're going to ask Dan for his logins. And then, we're going to free up some money there.
I don't have any because I got rid of all mine.
There you go. See, you already made that adjustment.
I did. I did. Yeah, there's a ton you can do when it comes to squeezing it out, and I got to tell you, the upside is there. So awesome. Okay, so let's go on to the number two. The number two biggest fear for home buyers is how do I maintain the home,
Ooh.
right? So if you're a renter, you make a phone call to the landlord, bang, the hot water tank is replaced, right? If you have a lawn, maybe there's a lawn service for that apartment complex, but now if you own the lawn, you gotta go buy a mower, you gotta get a weed whacker, you gotta get some pruning shears, you gotta maintain the yard, right? So when you look at that home inspection, right, as a lender, one of the biggest issues may be that they end up getting a money pit. How does a lender protect a borrower from getting into a house that may have just so many repairs it's overwhelming for them?
Yeah, so just from a loan guideline perspective, we are going to do an appraisal. And while an appraiser's role is not to tell us is this home in great conditions or not, or what's the cost of fixing these items, we're at least going to check for the major systems. Is the water on? Is the electricity working? Things like that. We're going to look for code violations and health and safety things. But again, appraiser role is not to tell you like, is this a good home, for a money pit? But also we're going to protect clients from a debt to income ratio. We're going to do an analysis to determine, if Dan's trying to buy this home, does he have disposable income after he makes his payments and this new mortgage payment to afford some of these incidentals that we might not be aware of today?
Yeah, that's great. One thing that a buyer can do when they buy their first home is put a home warranty on the property. A home warranty. I actually negotiated on a home for myself, one of the most expensive home warranties, and I had the seller pay for it. And guess what? When the furnace went out, it was a replacement. It cost me about $1,500 to replace a $5,000 furnace because I had that in place. Also, I would say that if you are working with a really good real estate agent, they should have the inside track on services, especially for lawn care, painting, roof care, furnace systems, all of those things. A good real estate agent has the inside track. So I would say if you ever work with me, you could always call me and I can send somebody over that is going to do it for a reasonable price if you don't want to do it yourself. For me, I kind of like tinkering with stuff a little bit. I like to go in and see if I can fix something myself. And that may be some of the draw of first-time home buyers, because you get frustrated with a landlord who's not taking care of things the way you would. And why would you put your good money into that when they're not going to take care of it the way you would? And then you get the opportunity to improve the value of that asset long-term by not only doing a repair work, but doing it in a way that adds tremendous amount of value.
Nice. Dan, what would you say from a maintenance perspective do you see that is most often neglected, that is a big ticket item? Like, especially here in the Northwest, we have a lot of rain and things like that. like what would you say like homeowners should be aware of that you're seeing neglected the most?
Yeah, number one, you said it, rain, moisture.
Okay.
And gutters is probably the one that is like the biggest impact in a negative way if you neglect it. I'm guilty. Last year,
Yeah.
I wake up, it's 2 a.m. and it's torrential rain. And I hear a waterfall, a literal waterfall coming off my roof. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I get up and I look out on my stoop on the front porch, and water, there's this V where the roof comes together, this little like that. And the water is just flowing right down. It had hit the gutter, blasted the gutter open, and it was just flowing. Right. And there's soffits there and all that stuff. And it's true. I mean, it was a torrential pour, but I don't think I had clean gutters either. so,
Yeah.
so it's like that is like a real simple fix that if you have clean gutters, you want the water to go away from the house. But if you just neglect that, it can cause a big problem. And hey, by the way, I have a guy for that.
Yeah. The one thing I was thinking, guilty here as well, was painting your house. I had bought a house that we did an inspection, and one of the things they told us was hey, this looks like it was recently painted, but we don't know how thorough they did. They might have painted over some rot and things like that. Well, we neglected to have it painted for several more years, and when the company came in to paint the house, they started pressure washing. Turns out we needed a bunch of new siding. So
Rip the siding off, yeah.
Exactly on that line, how often should people be painting the exterior of their homes here in the Seattle area?
Yeah, I mean, it depends the quality and the location of the house. So the quality of the paint job,
Yep.
if you get a really good paint job, it can last a long time. That also a wall that faces the south without trees is going to get a lot of sun on it when the sun does come out, and a lot of wear and tear. But you could also, touch it up as you go, and that will kind of help keep it healthy. So yeah, but the water, obviously the paint is a sealant against water penetration. So, or you can also get cedar shake, which is going to have like an oil-based stain that keeps the water and keeps the wood from rotting. So, okay, let's get to our number three. Number three, and I got to say that this one is what really stops people cold most of the time, and it's not really rational. And it's the regretting the decision-making time. And when we opened up, I asked you two specific dates of when you should do it. But the number three fear is regretting the decision, or making the wrong or timing it incorrectly. That's the number three biggest fear. And really, most of us now, we think in seconds, because we're flipping this little guy up to the next little reel or TikTok or whatever it is. Well, real estate is a place to live, number one, and then secondarily or even tertiary, it's an investment. So if we treat it like a stock, then you're going to have this FOMO. You're going to stop because you're going to be like, well, what's the timing? Is now the best time, or should I wait until fall with the time? Really, the proof is in the pudding. Is in the United States of America, over a couple hundred years now, we've seen real estate appreciate. So, if you try to time the market, you're going to actually find yourself a little, in a bad spot. Do you know of anybody that tried timing the market and they still haven't bought?
I have a buyer right now that has been working with the same real estate agent for 8 years and has yet to buy the first house.
I would not call that working with the same agent. I call that they're social friends. But yeah.
Right. And the same thing is, and he's so afraid of missing the right opportunity. And now it's that the prices are too high. So he feels he's priced out of the market and he expects prices to come down. And we've reminded him that if he would have bought 8 years ago, he would have a ton of equity. He would be in much better place, but he keeps trying to find these perfect moments to buy. And there's always going to be a better and a worse time to buy.
Awesome. Well, that's it. Those are your three greatest fears, demystified. And obviously, fear is a motivator. It's actually on the top line of doing that. And you can kind of flip it around a little bit. And I like to put it in a different light, is what if. I like to use that term when we're thinking about possibilities, is what if you made the right choice to buy, not because you were timing the market, and not because you could afford it, and not because you had all the tools in your possession to repair it, but if you did it because you needed a place to live, because you do, everybody does. And when you need a place to live, you can either be paying your mortgage or someone else's. And we don't want you to miss out on that. That being said, Mr. Tucker, we do conclude a little Northwest review. So what is happening this weekend in your world?
This weekend, it's more of the same. It's yard work, getting the yard ready now that the weather's improved a little bit. Mowing the lawn for the first time, has happened. So cleaning out the beds, getting ready for gardening season. Probably going to play a little golf as well.
Nice. All right, get out there. I'm actually leaving the Northwest. I'm going to the Southeast, going to Florida. Going to get myself some heat with my sunshine. Right now we got sunshine. It's nice. It's great. I'm very grateful for that. And now I'm going to head down there to 85 degrees and a little more humidity, and having a good time.
Perfect. Well, lasso that sun and bring it back with you.
You got it. I will do. Thanks for your time.
Awesome.
Everybody have a wonderful and safe weekend.